Hey guys, welcome to Unacademy and Let's Crack NEET PG, the YouTube channel for Unacademy, our NEET PG division. So, where the goal is to get you the top educators, quality content, and to give you a great learning experience. My name is Chetanya Mittal. I am currently pursuing my MBBS from AIMS, New Delhi. So, I hope you've already downloaded the Unacademy Learning app, and if you haven't, just go to the Play Store and install. You will need an invite code to access all the free content, and that invite code that you can use to access free content is my name, that is Chetanya, Chetanya, and you can add 10 after that, right? I'll tell you why this 10 is there. It is because if you purchase a plan, then this code will also give you a discount. So this code is your solution to buying any subscription on Unacademy or unlocking the free plan. So as you know, we have the top educators teaching live with us on Unacademy, and educators, they are making plus courses for you guys on Unacademy. So what is a plus course? Plus course are basically these blocked courses which are available with a subscription. But then why am I asking you to download the Unacademy Learning app? Because just like on YouTube, we are making free content for you. Similarly, on the Unacademy platform itself, we are providing free of cost content, and these special classes are absolutely free of cost. So take maximum advantage of these special classes. And as you can see here, that Unacademy has live batch courses, and not only are these live, you can also access the recorded content once the class is over. So some students told us that they wanted to ask their doubts. So we have introduced an ask a doubt feature. So your doubt clearing problems are also solved. And for testing, we have special tests, we have weekly tests, and regular we are conducting mock tests. Unacademy has a 34,000 plus question bank, and that question bank is being utilized to test your preparation, right? So Unacademy is now a one-stop solution for all your NEET PG preparation needs. So you can see what are the upcoming batches or what are the latest batches. The new list will also be there on the application. So we've started batches on the 1st of March, and we have batches for FMGE, NEET PG, and INI CET. Besides that, you can take advantage of the free tests which are taken on the application. Okay. So I assure you, Unacademy will provide you flexibility in terms of not only your schedule, only in terms of your language, but also how many times you can practice, right? Besides that, with online education, it has become slightly difficult to interact with educators. But Unacademy, we have a very robust platform for chatting. So you can chat with the educators. It will feel like you're right in the classroom. And there is an option for interactive polls, just like a teacher asks questions in the class. So that can be done in our online classes as well. So you can take all the benefits of Unacademy if you take an Unacademy Plus subscription, where you are given all the live experience, the live classes, the live tests, the doubt clearing, the batch courses, the testing, the structured schedule, right? And there is another subscription called as the Iconic subscription, where you not only get the benefits of Unacademy but also Prep Ladder, because we have recently acquired Prep Ladder. Prep Ladder has some of the top faculty teaching for various subjects, and you have video lectures, you have question banks, you have revision courses, and you have the handwritten notes. And these notes will be especially useful for revision. If you buy them separately, they will cost you 7,000 rupees. Here they're all included in the plan. The 1 year plan will cost you 49,500, and there's an option to get a 2 year plan, and that will cost you 69,300. All you have to do is use a referral code, that is Chetanya 10. It's a discount code that will give you an additional 10% discount, right? So please use this code while buying a Iconic or a Plus subscription. The Plus subscription will cost you 25,000 and 36,000 respectively, right? So this is how you can apply the referral code. You just go to on the Android phone, you go to the purchase option, and this is where you have the option to apply a referral code, and this is where you can also apply credits, right? So that is about the pricing of the Unacademy subscription. Now let's move on to today's topic, right? So I hope you've understood everything about the subscription, and if there are any details, you can always inquire, right? Right. So now let's start talking about the zones of the lung, right? So before I begin, before somebody else confuses you, let me be the one to confuse you and tell you that these zones of the lung, they're also called as West's zones of the lung, right? West's zones of the lung, right? So there was a scientist called as West, right? And a lot of respiratory physiology that you will read is actually derived from the literature that is coming from there, right? So this is known as West's zones of the lungs, because West was the scientist who divided these zones of the lungs. Okay. Right. So sorry for the disturbance. And so coming to the topic again, west zones of the lungs, like I told you, they were being divided on the basis of their blood flows, right? On the basis of their perfusion, how they are perfused. Okay, so now these were given by this scientist West, right, in 1964. There was a paper that was published in his name, right, where he demonstrated this in a dog by using radioactive xenon. All right, I'm not going into the experimental details, but these zones were demonstrated by West experimentally, first of all, right, in a paper. And West originally gave only 3 zones, but the expanded literature now has 4 zones. So we're going to talk about the 4 zones. What is the significance of these zones, right? And one thing you must understand is that these zones, they are, although we will draw them in this particular order, this order, 1 is above, 2 is below, 3 is here, 4 is here, but this is not an actual representation. All right, this is just a schematic diagram. It does not mean that the top zone is the collapse zone or something like that, right? So that is about the zones of the lung. So the important thing to understand is that this division is a functional division that was found out experimentally, proposed theoretically, right? So let's talk about the various zones of the lung. Let's first talk about the first zone of the lung. So like I told you, these are all based on how the blood is flowing through these zones, how well those zones are perfused, and what is the various pressure in these particular zones. So what you have to understand here, is what are the pressures that we are talking about, right? So let me draw a very simplified diagram for you. So let's say this is the lung. Let's say this is the lung tissue. Okay. Here you have the pulmonary artery. Here you have the, let's say first here you have the pulmonary vein, which is actually carrying away the oxygenated blood. And let me draw the pulmonary artery here with red. And that is actually bringing the deoxygenated blood from the heart, right? So these will split up into capillaries, right? For the sake of convenience, I'm just drawing 2, although there will be multiple. Okay. So yeah, here I've joined these, and yeah. Okay. So now let's say this is not a lung, and let's instead of lung, let's treat this as an alveoli. Let's essentially treat this as an alveoli. It's essentially means the same thing, but just for convenience. And outside here you have the interstitium. Outside here you have some fluid in the interstitium. So this is the interstitium. So what are the various pressures with regards to the blood flow? What are the various pressures with regards to the blood flow and the perfusion? Right. So there is some pressure that exists inside this artery, and let's call that pressure of the artery. Let's label it as P small a. Okay. So pulmonary arterial pressure is being labeled as P small a. Then there is a pressure that exists in the vein, and that is P small v. Then there is a pressure that exists in the alveoli, that is called as P capital A. And then there is an interstitial pressure. We can call it whatever we want. It is part of the zone 4. When we discuss zone 4, it is significant only then. So let's call it P interstitial fluid, PISF, right? Or whatever terminology we have used here, INT, interstitial pressure, right? So you can use whatever term you want for this, but these are standard nomenclatures. Okay. So now let's try to understand the various zones. So the first zone that we are going to talk about, sorry, is zone 1, right? So let's first talk about zone 1. So in zone 1, what actually happens? In zone 1, what actually happens is, so this is called as the zone of collapse. It is called as the zone of collapse. So before we start talking about zone 1, I want you to know that it is not physiological. It is not physio. Again, sorry for that. So what I want you to know about zone 1 is that it is not physiological. Instead, it is found only in certain conditions. Now, what are those conditions in which you will find zone 1 of the West's zones, right? So zone 1, it is only found during certain conditions. So one of them is called as positive pressure ventilation, right? Positive pressure ventilation. You'll understand why. Because what happens in positive pressure ventilation, you essentially add extra pressure to the pressure of the alveoli, right? So that is what happens there. So in that case, the pressure will be high, and so it's there in positive pressure ventilation. And the second condition where it will be is the hemorrhagic shock, right? Hemorrhagic shock. I'll just tell you why it will be present in these 2 conditions only, and why it is not normally present. Okay. So if you actually discuss this, you will see here that the condition is that this is the alveoli. So this is your artery. And I'm not making the capillaries now, and this is your vein. Okay, this is your vein, and in between you will have your capillaries. So the pressure in the alveoli, it is so high in this case that it exceeds the pressure of the artery, and the pressure in the artery will obviously be more than the pressure in the vein. Okay, So because of that, there is a compressive force exerted here, and because of this force, these arteries, they will collapse. They will collapse. These arteries, these veins, these vessels, they will essentially collapse. So therefore, I said that this is called as the zone of collapse. It is called as the zone of collapse, right? So the part of the lung above level at which the arterial and alveolar pressure are equal. So there is a level at which the arterial and alveolar pressure are equal, and above that, zone 1 will be will be present. Okay. So these are actually gravity. There's a gravity-based variation of the pressures, both arterial and alveolar. Okay. So I'm not going into those details. Like I told you, I'll be only telling you the functional aspect. I'm not asking you to take this as that apical lobe will be zone 1 or something like that. Because zone 1, like I told you, it is not a physiological thing. It is pathological. All right. So some of these authors, they will say that this is dead space. Why is this dead space? Because there is no perfusion here. There is no blood flow here, right? Or the blood flow is very less. Okay. So any doubts here? So alveolar pressure, it exceeds the pulmonary, arterial, and venous pressure, and almost no gas exchange would be taking place here because again there's no perfusion. So even if there is ventilation, there is no perfusion, and the blood flow, it is very limited, and it is only present in two conditions. Okay, so what are the conditions in which it can be present? So how will you increase the alveolar pressure? So the alveolar pressure has to be very high for this to be accomplished, and that can only happen when there is positive pressure ventilation. That is, you are externally applying extra pressure for that, for the purpose of ventilation, positive pressure ventilation. And the other condition is if the arterial pressure is by itself very low, and that will happen in case of hemorrhagic shock, when there is excessive blood loss. Okay, so those are the two scenarios in which this will be happening. Okay, so let's talk about the zone 2 of the lung. Okay, so zone 2, it's also called as the waterfall. It's also called as the waterfall zone. Okay, so now let's see why it is called as the waterfall zone. So the reason it is called as the waterfall zone is because there is an intermittent flow. All right, so zone 2 is that part of the lung at which the arterial pressure, it's more than the alveolar pressure, but the alveolar pressure is still greater than the venous pressure. Because of that, what would happen, and what would happen is that there will be intermittent blood flow, and that will happen only when there is a peak of the arterial pressure. All right, so again, let's draw the same diagram. Let's draw the similar diagram. Okay, so what is happening here is, let's say this is the lung, this is your artery, and this is going to be your vein. This is going to be your vein. Okay, so this is the pressure in the alveoli, this is the pressure in the artery, and this is the pressure in the vein. So you all know that the pressure in the artery is not a fixed value. It is pulsatile, right? During the systole, the pressure will be higher, and during the diastole, it will be lesser. Okay, so the pressure in the alveoli, it is less than the peak pressure in the artery, right? But it is still more than the peak pressure in the vein. So what would happen? Blood comes, the pressure is high of the blood, and it is able to pass. But after a point of time, the pressure will decrease as the blood moves from the artery to the vein, and then at some point during the diastole, it will get compressed. Okay, because during the diastole, the pressure is low, during the systole, the pressure is high. So there is a value of the arterial pressure above which there will be blood flow, and during some time there will be no blood flow. So there is intermittent blood flow in the form of pulses, which only happens when there is during the peaks of the arterial pressure in the pulmonary vessels, but during the diastolic time, it is not going to be there, right? So the diastolic pressure has to be less than the alveolar air pressure. All right. So therefore, this is the reason why it is zone 2, and the blood flow, it depends on the gradient. Okay, so it is found zone 2. Zone 2 will be found in physiological lung also. The next zone is the zone 3 of the lung. Zone 3 of the lung, right? And it is the zone with the maximum blood flow. All right, it is the zone with the maximum blood flow. One more thing, zone 2, it is also called as the waterfall. So you understand why it is called as the waterfall, because of these something called as, or it is also called as the sluice effect, right? Or it has been compared to a Starling resistor. So essentially what is happening is that there is some, so if this is a dam, right, so these are called as sluice gates, right? I don't know the exact pronunciation, but this is what they are called. So during the time these gates are opened, there is a constant, there is a pulsatile flow, and suddenly when you close the gates, the flow stops. So that is something like what is happening here. Similarly, in a waterfall, when there is a gush of the river from behind, there will be a sudden lot of falling, and when the pressure is low, the uh, falling of water, or here you compare it to blood, that will be less. So now you understand why it is called as the waterfall zone, right? Now zone 3 is your normal zone, where there's always it's the maximum perfuse zone. And here the condition is that the alveolar pressure, it is less than both the arterial and the venous pressure. So there is a constant kind of a blood flow all the time. So pressure in the alveoli, it is less than the pressure in the veins, and that is less than the pressure in the artery. So that is the condition that will be established in zone 3. All right. Now, finally, lastly, you come to a zone that is called as zone 4. All right. Now, zone 4, it's slightly different. Zone 4, it was not in the initial proposed zones of the lung. ठीक है. तो zone 4 is something that is different, और zone 4 is something that is new. ठीक है. तो zone 4 में दिक्कत क्या है? Zone 4, here there is the interstitial pressure, the pressure of the interstitium, it is greater than everything. So the pressure of the interstitium, it is greater than all the other pressures, pressure of alveoli, pressure of artery, pressure of veins, right? So because of that, these arteries, they are being compressed by the interstitial forces, and that is actually affecting the blood flow. That is actually affecting the blood flow. This condition of zone 4, that will be there when either you have a very edematous lung, where there's a lot of edema, there's a lot of interstitial fluid. So in that case, you will have this kind of a lung tissue. In that case, you will have this kind of a lung tissue. Okay. So you understand the difference between the 4 zones. Okay. So let's quickly summarize it. Zone 1, we said it is the zone of collapse, where the pressure in the alveoli is greater than the arterial pressure and the venous pressure. Okay. First thing, very clear. Zone 1, zone of collapse. Zone of collapse. Now you understand why it is called as the zone of collapse. Zone 2, and it is not physiological. It is found in 2 conditions. I've told you where it is found. It is found in positive pressure ventilation, as well as in case of hemorrhagic shock. Second case is the zone 2, or it is also called as the waterfall zone. And in this case, there is an arterial, there is a venous, and here the pressure of the artery is greater than the alveoli, but it is still greater than the pressure of the vein. So therefore, there is pulsatile or intermittent flow. Zone of distension, there is a constant flow, because here the pressure in the artery and the vein both is more than the pressure in the alveoli. In case of interstitial pressure, what will happen is that the pressure of the artery, it's slightly variable here, but the condition here is that the interstitial pressure, it is definitely greater than the pressure in the veins. All right, it is definitely greater than the pressure in the veins. So I told you that it is greater than all the pressures. But to summarize it, the important thing there is that this is there is a slight mistake, because there is obviously some amount of blood flow that is happening in this case. So this is about zone 3, right? So I was telling you a correction in zone 4. So zone 4, please remember this condition. It's slightly important to remember. The reason this condition is there is that the pressure in the artery is still greater than the interstitial pressure. Please remember at least this much. And then that interstitial pressure is greater than the pressure in the veins, and that is greater than the pressure in the alveoli. Okay, so this order is slightly fixed. And the reason for that is that there will still be some blood flow here. There will still be some blood flow here. It is not possible for the interstitial pressure to be greater than the arterial pressure, right? Because this interstitial pressure, it is ultimately building up, because the interstitial fluid is coming from the arteries outward, right? So there is some gradient that exists between the arterial and the interstitial pressures, right? Because otherwise, if the interstitial pressure gets greater, the artery will be completely collapsed, and that is not possible. Okay, so interstitial fluid, it exerts pressure, and that exceeds the venous pressure. That exceeds the venous pressure. Okay, so this is zone 4 of the lung, and these can be present in this order because there's a variation because of gravity, and but I'm not going into the difference of the regional variation due to gravity, because that is a topic in itself, and that requires some further explanation. But I want you to understand these zones very well. And before I talk about that, one more thing. Here, look here. I've told you this waterfall effect also. Yeah. So one more thing that we must talk about here is this. Okay. So this is a summarization of all the zones. The main zones are zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. So what you can add about zone 4, I've just told you. Zone 4, the pressure of the artery is the greatest, followed by the pressure of the interstitial fluid, and followed by the pressure of the veins. followed by pressure of the alveoli. All right. And because of that, the blood flow in zone 1, there's no blood flow. In zone 2, there is intermittent or pulsatile blood flow. There's still less amount of blood flow. And as you go down, the blood flow further increases and the blood flow is maximum in zone 3. Right. So I hope I have made myself clear. I've helped you guys understand the entire concept. And again, to summarize, I will again bring you back to this slide, and you can go back and revisit this whenever you guys are interested, right? So with that, we'll be coming to the end of this class. I hope you have been benefiting from today's classes, and hopefully these small tidbit sessions, they are enjoyable for you, as well as they're giving you the exact, concise, high yield knowledge that you need to crack your examinations. And these videos are very useful, especially at the end when you're looking to study at least the important topics. So do go through them, do go through whatever videos I've made today. Just go to the channel Let's Crack NEET PG and see what are the sessions that have been made for you guys today, right? Because the sessions I've made today, they are special high yield sessions, and they're very concise sessions. That's the good part. They're all very small sessions if you guys feel like it. And you guys can also download the Unacademy learning app and use my invite code to register, right? So thank you so much for watching. So I'll just tell you a little more. So with that note, let's end today's class. And I just want to inform you that thank you so much, first of all, for watching the video, and all the very best for your examination. And if you like the video, do remember to hit the like button, and your likes are an appreciation that I would really like to see. And do subscribe to our channel Let's Crack NEET PG, where we have faculty teaching for all subjects almost, and we are adding new subjects, we're adding new faculty, and we're constantly making content for you guys that is free of cost. And you can also subscribe to our Telegram channels. The link for the Telegram channels you will find in the description, t.me/ Let's Crack NEET PG, right? And I have another Unacademy Telegram channel, that is @Unacademy, @Unacademy NEET PG Chetanya, right? So you can subscribe to these Telegram channels to stay updated about the various classes. And do remember to hit the bell icon to receive notifications about which educator is going live when. If you like the video a lot, you can also drop a comment. And about the referral codes, there is one referral code, that is Chetanya 10, or also you can use my special class referral code, that is SPCM, a slightly shorter one, right? SPCM. And using these referral codes, you will be eligible to unlock free plans on the Unacademy platform. You will be able to unlock all the free content for NEET PG, and you can also purchase a subscription and you will get a 10% off on your purchase. So thank you so much for watching. Take care.